Revenge is part of human nature. We are hardwired to want vengeance for the wrong done to us. We might spend time fantasizing and planning the best way to get back on someone who had wronged us. But most times, plans for revenge do not turn out as expected, and we end up hurting innocent people. Here are some recent stories about acts of revenge gone wrong. According to police reports, 29-year-old Eddie Clark III was driving home when he was ambushed by his neighbors, who mistook his car for one belonging to a teenager who had been vandalizing their home. The four members of the Argueta family, 19-year-old Joe Argueta, his parents Florinda and Luis Argueta, and his uncle Margarito Alcantar are all charged with the slaying. The son and mother were soon arrested, but the father and uncle went into hiding. Joe Argueta told the police that he and his family members had filed several reports with the sheriff's office regarding a person damaging their home and vehicles. They suspected a teen friend of Argueta's ex-girlfriend who drove a black Dodge Charger as the person responsible. On May 17, 2021, the Argueta family stayed up late and waited for the vandal so they could teach him a lesson. When Clark drove by in his dark gray Challenger, they mistook it for the one they were looking for and went out to confront him. Armed with a gun and baseball bat, they hopped into two vehicles and blocked the car's path. When Clark tried to get away, Joe Argueta allegedly chased the car on foot, firing his gun. Clark was severely injured, but he managed to exit the car and ran a short distance before he collapsed. He was airlifted to the hospital, where he died.
They spotted the car in the neighborhood, believed that it was the persons that had been shooting up their house. They confronted the individual and shots were fired.
A neighbor's home security video captured some initial confrontations where Clark could be seen speeding away as two people chased the car on foot. The video also captured the sound as the vehicle crashed into a tree.
Surveillance video shows the moment after Harris County deputies say Joe Argueta fired into Eddie Clark's car 8 times. Clark, who was wounded, tries to drive off, clips a blue car, and crashes into a tree.
Joe Argueta and his mother, Florinda Argueta, appeared before a judge and were released on a bond of $50,000 and $20,000 respectively. At Joe Argueta's hearing, the judge admonished the family for their actions, saying, "This is an example of taking the law into your own hands, not going through the proper authorities to resolve any other harm or destruction that was being done to your own residence or your own home." Clark was a father of 2 and hoped to start his own trucking business. A woman in Torrance, California, is facing charges in connection with the death of a San Francisco Bay Area rap artist. According to San Mateo police, Amanda Young was the girlfriend of Louis Rapina, a 27-year-old musician who had died in a road rage shooting on the 405 freeway in Seal Beach. Police said that Young and Louis's brother Isaiah Rapina became frustrated when the investigation went on for months without an arrest. They took the investigation into their own hands, which led them to rap artist Melota Lassie, whose stage name is Cuddy Banks. However, according to the investigators, Lassie was not involved in the freeway incident. Believing that Lassie was behind his brother's death, police say that Isaiah Rapina drove from Southern California to San Mateo and gunned down Lassie in a Wells Fargo bank parking lot. Police responded to the scene on December 19th and found Lassie lying unresponsive in the parking lot. Witnesses said a male suspect, who was later identified as Rapina, fired at Lassie 5 times before fleeing in a white Mercedes. Lassie was pronounced dead at the scene, and the police launched their investigation. Rapina was arrested at his home in Oklahoma and extradited to San Mateo to face charges. When the police announced that they had captured Isaiah Rapina on Facebook, Cuddy Banks' mother, Veronica Reka Cuevas, wrote, "Let God's will be done. Shame on you. Not only did this youngster kill my son, which was the wrong person that killed their brother because my son ain't from LA, but now that family has lost 2 sons, brothers, grandsons." Young and Rapina are facing charges of conspiracy and homicide. 5 suspects who had been arrested for mortally stabbing 15-year-old Lisandro Jr. Guzman Feliz were finally sentenced to life in prison. The 5 men, Jonaki Martinez Estrella, Antonio Rodriguez Hernandez, Elvin Garcia, and Manuel Rivera, were found guilty of slaying Guzman Feliz on June 20th, 2018. Investigators said that the men, who all were supposed gang members, mistook Guzman Feliz for a rival gang member when they attacked him. The men chased Guzman Feliz for several blocks before he sought refuge in a bodega store. The teenager had tried to hide behind the counters, but was spotted and dragged outside. Video surveillance in the store showed a group of men dragging Guzman Feliz out and then punching and slashing him with long knives and machetes. The teenager managed to walk to a nearby hospital where he passed away.
Police say the frenzied attack took 20 seconds, starting with Muniz at the teen with a machete and Elvin Garcia, a scarf over his face, a knife into Junior 5 to 8 times. The lethal cut, police say, came from Martinez Estrella.
The gruesome murder of Guzman Feliz sparked online outrage and within the community as people spoke against gang activities and called for justice under hashtag Justice for Junior. The police arrested 14 suspects in connection with Junior's death. On June 14, 2019, a jury found 5 suspects guilty, and they were given various sentences ranging from 23 years to life in prison. After the sentencing, Junior's mother said that justice was served for her son, who had wanted to become a police officer.
They have what they deserve. They are paying now the consequence what they did.
In London, 4 men were found guilty in connection with the death of a shop worker they mistakenly thought was a rival gang member. Kwasi Mensah Ababio was gunned down in Monks Park, Wembley, on July 7, 2019. A CCTV camera shows the 4 entering the park where Kwasi is seen drinking a soft drink before they execute him. The police responded to reports of an unresponsive man in the park with a gunshot wound to the head. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Homicide detectives led by Detective Chief Inspector Neil John launched an investigation. He found that one defendant, Renee Montague, was seeking revenge for his best friend, Craig Small, who had been gunned down by a rival gang 2 days earlier. A surveillance video was released on social media showing a man approaching Small and shooting him before escaping. Detective Chief Inspector Neil John said, "Kwasi's death has left a family devastated. He was coldly executed by the 4 defendants who didn't bother to establish who he was." While sentencing the 4 defendants, the judge said that she was convinced that Montague was responsible for firing the gun, but added that all the others were involved. She said the victim was an innocent, hard-working, and intelligent man who everyone loved. Montague was sentenced to a minimum of 30 years in prison, while his accomplices, El Hassan Jello and Carlos Garcia, got 25 and 26 years. The 4th man, Talib Rowe, got 17 years after being charged with manslaughter. In Melbourne, Australia, a father of 5 was gunned down in a drive-by in what the police believe in another case of mistaken identity. The 33-year-old man, Ikanasio Tuivasa, also known to his family as Sayo, was standing outside the All-Star Lounge on Westwood Drive in Ravenhall when someone in a moving car fired at him.
Around midnight, the 33-year-old from Deer Park was standing out the front of this Ravenhall pool hall when he was gunned down.
According to the investigators, 4 shots were fired from the vehicle containing 2 unknown men. Sayo's family rushed him to the hospital where he succumbed to his injuries. Another man who had also been injured in the incident survived. Investigators have said that gang members usually frequent the area and that there had been an altercation between 2 rival gangs the night before and a gun was produced. The police believe Sayo was an innocent casualty of some gang-related feud. Sayo's father is pleading to anyone with information about the people responsible for his son's death to come forward.
If you know anything about my son, about the killer, please, why don't you come forward?
Sayo's wife described him as a loving and devoted partner who was a great father. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to get the latest and hottest news stories weekly.